everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I am your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, I have a very, very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm so happy to be here, Kimberly. I'm A.Burich, and I'm from Michigan.
Okay, Michigan. Great. How's the weather out there, by the way?
It's absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful day. Great day to be with your kids, to get outside and play.
Cool. Can you tell me extensively about your past leading up into your present? And if I cut you off, it's because I have a question.
All righty, yes. I came from some sad beginnings. I was unwanted child, and not because my mother didn't love me, but because she had two older children that she couldn't feed. And she was wondering how she was going to feed me. So, I came into this world knowing that I was a burden, and I did everything I could to try to be a shrinking violet and to stay out of everybody's way. My mother told me stories that I would never cry because I knew I was a burden. She said, you would never cry. You never gave me any trouble. And I'm going to start crying now because I can remember those feelings as a little child of being a burden. So I had a lot to overcome, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote a parenting book, and I want to help parents because, in my book, in fact, one of the first things I say in my book, Yes, You Can Raise Happy, Responsible Children, is if I were to search for the central core of difficulties in people, as I have come to know them, it is that in a great majority of cases, they despise themselves, regarding themselves as worthless and unlovable. And that was Dr. Carl Rogers in the 50s. And yes, this is exactly what happens to so many people. We think that we're worthless and unlovable because there's always somebody who can do things better. No matter what we do, oftentimes, no matter what we do, we feel like it's never enough. It's never enough. I'm never good enough. That's why you get children, they make a 98 on a test and they cry. Oh, I didn't make a 100. Well, because they think that there's perfection, when in actuality there isn't perfection. So yes, my entire background, I had to overcome social anxiety. I had to come these feelings of unworthiness and fear of people in order to live my life. And I was very lucky. I got a college education, even though I was kicked out of two colleges.
Tell me about what happened with that, Martha.
Yeah, well, I was a heavy drinker. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk? I drank too much and got in trouble in college. So they kicked me out. And then I was crying at home one day to my mother. And I said, oh, my goodness, what am I going to do? I can't go back to college. I had a 1.0 GPA. That's a D, everybody. And grade point average, a D. And my mother said, you're going to march right back to that college. Because I went to one out of state and then I went to one close to home and got kicked out of both. And my mother said, you're going to march right back to that college and ask them to let you back in. When I did, and they said, yes, we're going to let you back in on probation. You can't make anything less than a C, and you better straighten up. And of course I did. That made me realize, you know what, I got to grow up. So I did. So I got back in. See, so that's another thing. Nothing cannot be overcome. You can always go over, under, sideways. There's always a way around things. Maybe things don't work out the way you want them to, but they're still going to work out. And it almost always works out that it's a blessing and it works out in your favor. But sometimes it takes us a while to see that perspective.
How did you balance not drinking no more with going to college and staying focused?
Well, then what happened was I just drank on the weekends. So, I put college first, and I knew that, if I drank any other time, it would cause a problem. So I saved it all just for the weekends, and it worked out. It definitely worked out most of the time. So, yeah, and that's how I did it. And then I got a master's degree, and I taught child psychology for 10 years, which was great fun. Then I became a high school special education teacher for 16, which was great fun. That's where I learned a whole lot about different abilities and how you can help people no matter what their skill level, and how they can, doesn't matter your skill level. You can have a very satisfying, happy, fulfilling life. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be super skilled. You just have to be determined and know what you want and make a decision. I'm going to make my life work. and not be a drug addict or an alcoholic or cause problems for other people.
How so you can kind of say that even though you felt like you were a burden to your mother was there. You know, she told you to march back up to that college. And I remember one day I made a mistake and my mother told me to march back up to the college. I understand, it may always seems like, they're a burden, but sometimes they're just stressed. They're overstressed and overworked with the children, that as many children as she had. I think she loved you. I just think that she was just overstressed with how many other children she had. Do you think
Oh
that
yeah,
that's safe to say?
I think you're exactly right, Kimberly. Yes, I had two older brothers, and she was just concerned with my father. My father was a drug addict, an alcoholic, and a gambler. He gambled and drank all the money away. So yeah, she told me stories of only having cornbread for Christmas, having nothing, because my dad was so irresponsible. But then again, we have to go back, and I'm not excusing him, but I'm understanding. My father was a prisoner of war of the Germans for 3 years. He came back a changed man, and you know what? Sometimes when people go through things, they're not able to overcome it, and I think that was how he handled it. I'm not sure. He was a very nice man. He was never mean. He was a gentle soul. Kimberly, you're going to make me cry again.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Tell me how did he was a very good man and he
He
was a
was.
prisoner of war. Did he ever tell you stories of what happened? Because that could be another book.
No, no,
Oh,
he never. And he's been dead a while. No, he never brought it up to any
I'm
of us.
sorry.
And
Um,
and that's pretty typical. I've met a lot of military men, even young military men at Alcoholics Anonymous, and they tell me the same thing. They say they can't talk about it, and they can't really deal with anybody but other military men who have experienced what they've experienced. It's very obviously very very traumatic when you go into other places and see how people are treated and what happens. Now, what happened to my dad was very extreme, but even when these military men go to other cultures, some of them are very, very distressing.
yeah, they try to emasculate them a lot, and that's one thing that every guy would hate, is to be unmanned
Hmm.
and treated unfairly. Tell me, you got over life challenges. What was your master's in? And
Master's
tell
degree was
me,
secondary education. I always wanted to be in education. I always wanted to teach. That was always my goal. So it was in secondary education, and then I'm a PhD. I'm all but dissertation,
mhm.
and I went on for that. So yeah, educate. I've always loved education. I've loved teaching. I've loved, because how do we move in the world? We get new knowledge, but it's only through applied knowledge. Just because we know something that's kind of useless, it's when we apply the knowledge that changes our lives.
Yeah, it's like it's universal, in a way, universal code language, and you get to learn about the world. Do
Hmm.
you think that you did pretty good when, because to be quite honest, you got a master's in education. That is great. You went to a traditional university, which means you had to put a thesis together, some type of thesis, well
Right.
written thesis, and
Yeah.
that was hard. That's not easy, and so I give it to you. I give it to you. And um, how did you how is everyday challenge, like when you what you have been through? How do you go through a learning experience where you take a step back if history repeats itself and you say, well, I can see where this is going, I'm not going to take that route?
Well, that's a really good question, Kimberly. And you know what you do? Okay, I just focus on what I can do today. I don't worry about yesterday, and I don't worry about tomorrow. I have goals and plans, but what can I do today to make my life better? What can I do today to help fulfill the goals that I have for tomorrow? So when I focus on what I can do today, that helps me stop being overwhelmed. So let's say you are in a position where you have children, you've got a job and everything else. So you have to think to yourself, all right, how do I organize my life so I'm not overwhelmed and I can handle this? Well, let's see. On Sundays, I could cook for the week and put all the food in the freezer. I could use the crock pot a lot to help me. I could, and so start thinking, how can I make my life easier? I can have the children doing more. I can put up lists of assignments that children need to do and they can check it off. We can have family meetings so that everyone has a place and they know their place in the home and contributes. Because, if you don't contribute to your family, you're not going to contribute to society. So that's number one. So definitely, you need to think to yourself, how can I help my family? How can I help society? How can I be a better person? How can I be useful?
How do you want to contribute to children where the same situation don't happen, where you feel like children are a burden, which I know you don't feel that way. You love children. So how do you make that happen where you contribute your knowledge to the children to help them grow?
That's another good question. First off, I wrote the book for their parents. And, it's only 72 pages and it tells you exactly what to do all the time. Yes, you can raise happy, responsible children. And it says, how to build self-esteem, discipline, creating positive relationships with your children, raising smart children, what to do at meal times, what to do at the grocery store, travel. What do you do when you travel? What do you do when you're driving in the car and your 7-year-old takes off their seatbelt? What? What do you do? You pull over and you say, we can't go anywhere until your seatbelt's on. And you do not go until the child does, because that's a matter of safety. Creating a safe home and the law.
You can continue. I want to hear more.
Creating a safe home. So what do you do to create a safe home? And you know what? If your children go to grandma's house and you have a little baby, you get down on your hands and knees and you see what is on the floor. I took my son when he was a baby to somebody's house. I put him down on the floor. He started eating the dog food.
Wow.
So you got to keep your eyes open. And one time we looked at an apartment, and when he was a baby, there was a hole in the floor. There was a hole in the floor. So yeah, you have got to, anytime you have your children with you have to look around. What are the potential dangers? Look around for those little batteries. Those little batteries are so dangerous. Those little lithium batteries, a 2-year-old will put that in their mouth before you know what's going on. And that is, so you have to watch every single remote, toy, everything. Be vigilant. Keep your children safe. Okay, so creating a safe home, how to strengthen your marriage. If you're in a relationship, what comes first? The relationship comes first, not the children. Praise and encouragement, how to encourage your children. And yeah, so we pretty much cover everything that makes it a lot easier for you to handle your children and not have all these problems that happen when you don't know how to say no to your children. That's why I wrote the book. When my son was 4, when my husband and I, his dad and I, we were clueless. We thought the way to raise a happy child is don't say no. We were wrong. And people who don't take no for an answer become self-centered. That usually they have health problems because they never deny themselves. They don't know how to say no to themselves, and they don't know how to take no for an answer. So then they become drug addicts and alcoholics. You can't trust them because they're so self-centered. They think that whatever they want is what they should get. And they don't realize that they have a contribution to make. They think everybody owes them, that they owe nothing. So it becomes very, very unpleasant to have people who don't know how to take no for an answer or say no to themselves around.
Do you think that is therapeutic to travel with your child? And why would you think that is therapeutic to travel with your child?
Oh, that's a whole lot of fun when you put the kid in the back seat, no screens, nothing. And so the child's in the back seat, that's where they're supposed to be. And you ask questions. Hey, where's the red? Show me something red. Why is there a dog barking? Why do you think that dog's barking? There's no right answer to that. He could be hungry. He could have seen a squirrel. He could, who knows why a dog barks, but let's find out. Let's think of some possibilities. Oh, what's going on over there? Oh, look for the X in license plates. Look for a white car. Look for this. Look for that. Stay busy. What do you think of this? We're going to so and so's house. What do you think we should do when we get there? What do you think about so and so? Have these constant conversations with their children. Oh, is this street dirty or clean? What do you think they should do to make it better? Is that a stop sign coming up or a yield sign? Constantly engaging with your children, and not gossip. Don't gossip with them. Relating what's going on in the world, but don't children don't need to hear you talking poorly about other people. That's really not a good thing to show people. We always want to talk positively. So always notice the good in other people, because then children, if you always notice the negative in others, your children think, oh dear, that's what they see in me. I'm not good enough. So, but if you notice the good in others, the child thinks to themselves, oh good, well, my mom notices or my dad notices what's good in me. And they want to be good. They want to do better.
Do you feel like performance, the way a adult performs around a child can influence the way a child performs in middle school or high school towards their peers because of the negativity that the parent give off?
Yes, lead by example. Do not speak poorly of your children's teachers behind their backs, because then the child goes to school and has no respect for the teacher and won't do the work. And then nobody wins. And then the child is a bad example for the other children. So you know what? If you have a problem with the child's teacher, you need to talk to the teacher calmly and say, I have a difficulty with this. Can you explain this to me? Let me give you a quick example, Kimberly. When my son was, I think he was third grade, we were at a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher said, he works really hard. He's a great kid, but I have one complaint. And I said, yes, well, what is that? And she said, when he finishes his work, he won't help anyone else who might need help. I said, that's interesting. Let me call him over here. So I had her say it again, because we don't do things behind anybody's back. I said, Anthony, what do you think of that? Is that true? And he said, yes, it is. And I said, well, explain to me what's going on. And he said, those children that want me to help them when I finish, they don't listen when the teacher gives instructions. And then they don't know what to do, and they want me to help them. I'm not going to. They should listen when the teacher talks. Whoa. So, yeah, so you want to find out. You want to find out when the teacher says, well, he doesn't do this right. They do this. Well, come over here, honey. Do you agree? Is that what? Okay. Why does that happen? Okay. And then if it does happen, say, what kind of solutions do you have so that you don't disrupt class? Because other children need to learn. You're not the center of attention here. Learning is the center of attention. So what needs to happen so that everybody can learn and you're not disruptive? So make it a group problem solving session rather than a blind.
That's kind of one thing that it's hard to do is groups, working with groups. But at the same time, some people make it look easy, some people make it look hard. But I get what your son was saying, and I was wondering, have you reaped the benefits of helping people? Have you do it feels good to help people in your life?
Oh my goodness, yes. I learned, going to the jail and the treatment center, helping people, I have learned so much, but also the satisfaction. I have one woman, she was a meth addict, Kimberly, a meth addict in prison. She was pregnant. She said when she found out she was pregnant, she stopped and then taking meth, but then she went to jail. And I remember 5 months pregnant, she talked about how we were all talking about how she was going to be so busy when the baby got there. And she said, yes, I'll have to go back on meth. She was serious, Kimberly. She was serious. And then, of course, everybody talked her out of it. Well, when she got out of jail, her mother died. She did not relapse. And then her father died. And then, so her mother died, then she had the baby, then her father died within like a month. And, this has been over 2 years ago. Yeah, over 2 years ago, she's still straight, drug-free, and she's had 2 children, and she's an absolutely fabulous mother, living a wonderful life and moving on with her life. Yes, it's been more than 2 years and almost 3 now that since she got out of jail and she stopped doing drugs. So anything is possible. And I see those stories again and again and again. I see ladies from the jail because I still stay in the recovery community. So I see them because they go to meetings like I do, AA and things, and I see the success. And yes, you know what? You just one day at a time, just say, today is all I worry about. I'm going to get done what I need to do today. I'm going to stay sober. I'm going to stay drug free, and I'll worry about tomorrow.
Being around people that had dysfunctions, how did that make your life grow, and you help somebody, and you grow from helping somebody? Tell me about, because you already have told me about a couple of instances where you helped somebody, but tell me about where you gave advice to someone that like the lady. Let's dig deeper into the lady um that did not relapse on meth. Tell me, do y'all still connect? Do y'all still talk?
Yes, and she wrote me a note when I got I was uh, nominated for Recovery Volunteer of the Year, and she wrote, "Congratulations, you are an amazing contribution to our recovery community. What you do at the jails is huge, and I truly believe without your classes, I wouldn't be where I am today." That's really,
Wow.
yeah, because I encourage, and you know what? I encourage the way that people encouraged me. You know what? Life is hard. Let's face it. Some days life is hard, but you know what? We can do it. We can do it. People have done it before us, and we need to be good examples and be strong for others. And that's one way, when I see people who have lost everything because of drugs or alcohol or whatever, and they're still trying, still trying, still trying. One woman relapsed 33 times. 33 times she was in treatment.
So
But now she's a pillar of the community. She's been sober and without drugs for over 4 years. She married. She's in a very stable, happy marriage. She sees her grandchildren, takes care of them. She's an absolute pillar of the community. And without her, a lot of people, she is responsible for a lot of people today having wonderful lives because of her and her good example. They stopped doing drugs and alcohol. So you do not know how you affect people. So do your best every day.
what does your classes represent, by the way?
Well, the classes, at least at the recovery, they're just we talk about handling things. We talk about when people insult us, what do we do? Well, when someone insults you, you don't get defensive. You say, what makes you say that? Don't get your panties in a wad. Don't go upset. One person, somebody said, you're a bad mother. And rather than getting defensive, she said, oh, that's interesting. What makes you say that? And the person said, you don't let your child have candy. Now, Kimberly, as a parent, you're thinking, oh my goodness, oh, I don't pay enough attention to my child. Oh my goodness, I'm too mean. Oh, I yelled at him. You're thinking all these thoughts. I'm a bad mother. And then you ask, you don't give your child candy. That's the kind of stuff when you ask, well, what makes you say that? Don't get defensive. What makes you say that? You're an idiot. Oh, that's interesting. What makes you say that? You didn't this, you didn't that. Oh, yeah. So get information. Don't be defensive. Don't push back and insult people. Just get information. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Now I know. I didn't know before. You don't have to do anything with the information, but at least now you have it. You're much better off than before.
Well said. Well said. Basically, make sure you just extract the information and you analyze, is this true? And if it's not, then let it go. You
Right.
know, that's pretty cool what you do for the people. And one last thing before I go into your future, tell me about your your AA classes that you take. Do you think that they're worth it? Because I used to take NA and AA on a regular basis, and I say they are worth it.
Oh, definitely they're worth it. And they're not really classes. When you go to AA meetings, what happens at an AA and an NA meeting is everyone gets a turn and they tell how they're staying sober and drug free. So 2 or 3 minutes, and they talk about, well, here's how I'm staying sober or drug free, and they talk about being grateful, and they talk about how their family's so much happier with them, and they just talk about their lives being better. And then there's no crosstalk. Everybody gets their 2 or 3 minutes to just say what they want to say, and you learn so much, and it also gives you a chance to think in your own mind and formulate your own thoughts. So yes, I really highly recommend those meetings, and listen to what other people say to help you to stay sober or drug free. And yes, those meetings are absolutely invaluable to help people who have substance abuse problems. And and they even have the Overeaters Anonymous, OA,
I
for
didn't know
overeaters, which
that.
works. Yeah, that's a very good program that works for a lot of people really well. They use the same 12 steps. The first step is I'm powerless over alcohol, drugs, food, and my life is unmanageable because of it. That's number one. You have got to admit that, because if you don't, well, I can drink whenever I want. Yeah, okay. What's one person said? He goes, I could drink every time I drink. I wind up in, whenever I drink, I usually wind up in handcuffs. My life goes to pot. That's when I lose everything, when I have a drink. Okay, just don't take the first drink. Don't have a drink today. And then do it again tomorrow. And go to AA or NA, whatever you need. Meet some people who are the same. Don't go to bars. Don't go to places you used to go where they're all drinking. Don't go hanging out. Don't hang out with the people that do drugs and drink. Birds of a feather flock together. That's a very popular saying for a reason.
I like that. Where are you going in the future, Martha?
Well, I finished this book. So my plan is I intend to get 100,000 copies of this book sold. And you know what else? Kimberly, I want this book in every jail, in every treatment center, because people get out of jail and most of them are parents, and they are clueless how to help their children. And a lot of my mothers in jail, when I went over, what was in this book, that really helped them. In fact, I had one mother, they were going to take her children away. And she and her mother always argued every week when they had a phone call, every week. And I told her what to do, information from this book. And I said, you know what? And we've already talked about it. I said, when your mother talks to you and she insults you, you just listen. And you ask her, what makes you say that, Mom? You stop being defensive and you just listen. I'm going to cry again. She told me it totally turned their relationship around, that they were having pleasant conversations. And the social workers, this was when she was still in jail, the social workers told her that they were no longer even considering taking her children from her. So when she got out of jail, she got her children back. She got a job. She's thriving. She is thriving. So you know what? Little changes make a big difference. So this helped a lot of people. And that's why I want it in every jail and treatment center everywhere. So I'm going to start writing grants to try to do that. I'm trying to figure out how I can do that. And then also what's in my future? Well, I have a book for teachers that I'm in the middle of writing. But you know what? I spend a lot of time on podcasts and things and doing my best to promote this book. So if you have a library, go to the library, ask for the book. Yes, you can. Raise Happy, Responsible Children. Go to your bookstore, ask your bookstore to carry it. Yes, you can. Raise Happy, Responsible Children. Because Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, Kimberly, he wrote this entire back. This entire back cover is Jack Canfield's endorsement of my book. And he said this book has the potential to transform the lives of families worldwide. And it does. I know, because it transformed the life of my family.
Well said, Martha. How can the people reach you?
Okay, you can go to my website, marthaburich.com. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube, Martha Burich, YouTube at Martha Burich Parenting. I'm all over the place.
Cool. Thank you so much, Martha. Stay on the line. Thank you, everybody, for joining my show today. Y'all take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Never waste my time, you all I want.